This frozen delight might just be your new favorite summertime cocktail. Let me show you how to make a frozen whiskey espresso martini. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the Whiskey Nerd, and like I said, today I've got a frozen little delight that might just be your new favorite summertime whiskey cocktail. I've got a frozen whiskey espresso martini, and I actually got this recipe, this idea, from Jameson on their Instagram. They had a little post where they had a little video of how to make a frozen espresso martini, and they use the original Jameson, the classic Jameson. And I said to myself, I wouldn't use that. If I was going to make this, I would make it with the Jameson Caskmates, which is the standard Jameson, which has been aged in stout beer. So if you're not familiar with a stout beer, I'll put a picture of it up there. It is essentially like a dark, black, slightly bitter, roasted beer, and it gives you, when you add a whiskey to those barrels, it gives you these slightly bitter, slightly chocolatey, slightly coffee notes, and I think it works really well in things like Irish coffees, or this recipe right here, a frozen espresso martini. So if you can't find a stout finished beer, you can just use a regular old whiskey, but I think this here just adds a little bit something else to it. It just makes it really, really nice. For the other ingredients, I've got my coffee liqueur. This here is Tia Maria. For me, for espresso martinis, this here is really nice because it's not super sweet, but it has a bit of vanilla flavor to it. So it has a bit of coffee, a bit of sugar, a bit of vanilla, and I think it works quite nicely in espresso martinis, again, just to round it out and give you more than just those simple coffee whiskey flavors. So I've also got a little bit of maple syrup, because that here works well, because sugar syrup just gives you a bit of sweetness, but we've already got sweetness here. The whiskey's already kind of sweet, but the maple syrup gives it a bit of roundness, a bit of caramelly notes that plays well with the caramel notes you get in a whiskey. And lastly, we've also got a fresh, not hot, but not quite room temperature, slightly warm shot of espresso, just to give ourselves an extra bit of coffee hit. And since this is a frozen drink, we're actually going to be building it in a blender. So I'm going to pop my blender up here, maybe over here, so I can actually still be seen on camera, and I'm getting ready to put all my ingredients into it. Starting off with my whiskey, I'm going to go in with 50 ml of my Jameson Cask Edition, or Stout Cask Edition Caskmates whiskey. Like I said, it has the classic kind of Jameson notes to it, but it does have a little bit of extra coffee, dark chocolate notes to it that just, I think, is going to work really well here. So I'm going to pop in 50 ml of that. If I can close the cap, I'm going to pop 50 ml of that into there before going in with my Tia Maria. So I'm going to go in with 25 ml of my coffee liqueur. If you prefer Kahlua, you prefer other things like that, you can go in with that if you want. But me, like I said, I prefer Tia Maria. So I'm going to go in with 25 ml of Tia Maria, and then some maple syrup. I'm going to go in with 20 ml of maple syrup, because that's going to give us, like I said, that kind of brown sugar, maple sugar, sweetness, bit of oak, bit of flavor, but also make sure the cocktail at the end of the day is quite sweet, because we're also going to be adding in an entire shot. So this is, let that drain off. This is about 30 ml, maybe 35 ml of, like I said, fresh espresso into there that will be quite bitter. So I'm going to pop that down there, and to freeze the cocktail, I'm going to get some ice. Now, it might take a couple of times for you to get the ratio right. I tried making this 2 or 3 times already, and for me, this scoop, so decent enough scoop, 1.5 scoops gave me a nice kind of frothy head, bit of a frozen texture to the cocktail without being like just overly icy and overly diluted. So I'm going to go in with 1.5 scoops of my ice. So in there with 1. And a half into there, and then I'm going to take that off the top, and I'm going to pop this closed on my blender, because I do not want this to be going everywhere. I'm probably going to mute the audio because this is going to be kind of loud, so I'm going to blend this down until I can see it's got a nice kind of texture or kind of just profile to it. So just probably going to mute the audio. Okay, I think this is nicely mixed and nicely chilled now. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to pour it away into a very cold, very chilled espresso martini glass. So I'm just going to pour this away. Oh, you can see it's got this really nice thick character to it. Oh, just like that. There's a little bit left over, but sure, what's a little bit of extra cocktail when you're with friends. So I'm gonna just tidy this away for just a second. Okay, and this here looks really, really great, but I think it needs a little bit of time to settle. So while it settles, if you're new here, scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews every Wednesday. I put out cocktail recipes featuring whiskey every Friday. So if you want to see more like this, make sure you scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. You get extra recipes like this. It does support the channel. And well, if you're feeling extra generous, you can leave me a note in the comments below and let me know if there are any cocktails you think I should try in future, because I'm always on the lookout for new cocktails, for new recipes, new ways of using whiskey to kind of give classic cocktails like an espresso martini a bit of a different facelift, a bit of a different vibe, a bit of a different flavor character. So I'm going to finish letting this settle for just a little bit longer, and then I'm going to give it a taste. Okay, I think this is nice and settled now. You can see there's a nice bit of a gap between the head and the cocktail. The cocktail won't go exactly black like a classic espresso martini because it is frozen, has little bits of chips of ice going through it, so you're not going to get that clean demarcation, but I think this is as nicely settled as it's going to get. So I'm going to go in for a little taste. Cheers. That's really nice. It does feel immediately like an espresso martini. Obviously, like, you've got alcohol, you've got sugar, you've got cold coffee, you've got like a kind of espresso martini cocktail here, but when you taste it, that like the maple syrup comes through, the caramelly notes of the whiskey, the little bits of like almost chocolate, like I was saying, they carry through into the cocktail, so it doesn't feel exactly like the classic kind of vodka based espresso martini. It just gives you this really nice richer profile. Yeah, it's definitely a bit richer, a bit thicker. Like the maple syrup, I think, gives it a bit of earthy sweetness. The whiskey gives it like that kind of caramelly note. So I think it's just really, really nice. The head is quite thick on it, so it does feel like a bit of a frozen ice cream or a bit of a almost like a dessert. So I think I'm going to keep on enjoying this before it fully melts, and I'll see you next time. Sláinte.